welcome to hopefully a short episode of Velocity Kinetics. The reason why I say hopefully is because in my head as I was thinking about this, I don't see any reason as to why this would be a very long video, barring me being stupid and not editing out stuff where I might wander off inappropriately. But today I just want to have a general chit chat. I posted recently on the Facebook page about one of my favourite racing cars, if not ever. I'd stumbled across videos of it. I just want to talk about why I feel such an affinity to it. So, one of my favourite racing cars ever, if not my most favourite, it comes from the Swedish stable. Actually, just before I go any further, if you can hear a bubbling, I've got something cooking over here. It's just cooking down a little bit, so apologies if it interferes with the audio a little too much, or it sounds like, I don't know, lava. But you can also, it might as well be lava in terms of the colour. Anyway, one of my favourite racing cars ever comes from the Swedish stable of cars. Being a Volvo nut, I am, or a Volvo nut who's never owned a Volvo. I've got many favourites of models. V70s, S60s I've got particular soft spots for. Older models like the older V40, 440, even a little bit for the 480 got a soft spot for. But also the recently removed from the UK market, the V60, that most recent generation S60, the V4, the newest V40, the hatchback was a very nice car. The C30 had a lot of potential. You name it, I like it. The only one I've never really been very over is the XC series, aside from the XC70, because whilst I think I eventually went off the XC70, for a while it was one of my favourite cars when I was a lot younger, so can't rule the XC70 out. And also the S90, I sort of find it a bit ungainly to a point, and the S80 to a lesser point. I've never felt much affinity for it, but then again it was always out my father's price range, so never really ever got looked at. But one of my favourite racing cars ever was the Volvo S40 BTCC. Glorious looking car. The video I most recently shared on the Facebook page got here. It's 5-cylinder engine thrumming away rather gloriously. And I do love like the 850 BTCC. That was an absolute rule breaker back in the day. Some of the S60 STCC, the S60 Polestar WTC CC was a very nice car, but the S40 for me was always my favourite, and I think my reasoning behind it is the same reason why a lot of people love certain cars from 90s and early 2000s BTCC. My dad had one. Come to think of it, he had two. When the S40 originally launched, was about 98 from doing it from memory. It replaced the outgoing 440 and 460. The immediate main difference between the 440, 460 and the S40 is the S40 had a 3-point seatbelt in the middle, whereas the 440 and 460 only had a lap belt. Now, for people who haven't got big families, that's not really a concern about the lap belt. But for people like my family, where there was 3 children plus my parents, you need something with a proper seatbelt for maximum safety. They had a 940 that had it, and it sort of blew my parents' minds. It's like, why has the 940 got it and they didn't update the other car to have it? But there we are, up to 90s Volvo to make that decision, I guess. My dad didn't have one of the original ones. His was from about the year 2000, if I remember rightly. A red 1.6 litre engine. Lovely car, super easy wheels to clean, very similar to the wheels that are on the T4 model. I think his was an S or an SE maybe at most. But it was a lovely car. I think its shape, looking back at the cars that are around it, the shape of the S40 V40, I think were designed to try and take it more to the BMW 3 Series, Peugeot 406, the, was it 405 then? 405, 406, Ford Mondeo even. Try and take it to that element of the market. And I don't know how Volvo's market research did, because I haven't done any research for this video, because I prefer to just free talk, but I'll probably do another one where I have properly researched it. There are a lot of that S40 around a lot of them, as indeed its estate cousin, the V40. I'm not sure why the S40 is one of my favourite cars. The BTC. Some of it is the fact it's just. I don't know about you, but there is something so delightful about fast Volvo. It's two words that shouldn't exist together. Sporty Volvo? What? Without the R badge on it, at least. Surprisingly if it didn't. I think an S40R and a V40R would have been amazing things to have, and I think the M3 would have shat its pants back in the day if Volvo applied the same level of lunacy that they did to the S70R, the 850R, the V70R, and the S60R as well. If they applied that same level of comparative Volvo mentalism, I think there might have been mentalism as in stupidity, not being psychic. I think they would have been on for a little bit of a bloody winner, or at least if nothing else, a very quirky winner. It was the first car really that I'd ever. My dad had I wasn't involved in the buying process, but that I remember is the first car I went to go and pick up with my dad, knowing that I loved Volvos. At least the first one I remember doing, I've got good memories for. Because quite often I'd go to school and come back and the car was different. I wouldn't know he was changing it or anything. I suppose it's one of the first ones he actually really involved us in, because we were a bit old and a bit more mature and things. The boot on it was, that I remember, it was quite a reasonable boot. Odd having the orange side lights running down the side, but an extra safety feature. I suppose maybe, thinking about it, because it's a very American thing to have those extra side lights, or at least it was. Maybe it was just to make it easier to import the car between the two countries, just to flip the steering wheel over. That's pretty much it. It offered the S40 offered a fantastic value for money car back in the day, as did its V40 counterpart. They also looked quite nice. It sounds silly to just go, well, they look nice. Okay. Look, some cars is probably the best. This is how hard I'm struggling to put it together, to try and word it. Some cars, when you see the press model, the release model, whatever you call it, it's got the sporty wing, it's got the extra chin spoiler, got the bigger wheels, it's got, everything to make it look the best. The S40 was one of those rare cars, and to a point its V40 cousin, or sibling, whatever word, I can't remember what word I've used to describe it, if I've used any word to describe it like that. But it was one of those cars that actually looked good in stock form, without the Sport Lux or the Sport Lux SE or even just the standard Sport body kits that would go on it. That was just slightly bigger wheels and a little wing on the back. The little wing on the back actually looked quite nice, a little bit dainty, but very nice. They then did a very mental model of the V40 and S40, which was the T4, which I haven't sorted it out yet, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks I can sort out the GoFundMe for the NC500, and that's the sort of Volvo I would like to take, a T4 S40. I've wanted one for years, but by the time I've come around to buying a car, I've needed something I can get to and from work super easy. I can't afford to keep taking a car back up to the garage again and again and again. Plus, with it being a big 2-litre car, wasn't something I could ever afford to insure myself on. And if money becomes my friend again, then I would probably invest in one as a project car to learn how to do things on, and then eventually drive properly. But it was a mental car, and I remember reading about it. My parents used to get a monthly Volvo, it was either monthly or quarterly, they used to get a Volvo magazine. I remember seeing the pictures of it in there. It was a British Racing green one with the wheels that had these little spokes holes about that big, the slight lip on. I can't remember where they were, probably somewhere in Sweden, maybe they're being Volvo. But they maxed, I remember the article, they maxed it, they put it through its paces, the S42. It was one of those magazine articles at the time I just read again and again and again and again. My dad had a second S40, which was a bit higher spec, but interestingly, it came with a slight problem. So he changed from a 1.6 to a 1.8 because it meant less gear shifts or what have you. don't know, I don't properly understand, but I've never driven a car from how old that is, so maybe that does make some sense in those old cars. When I've had a manual, I've had cars that have been very forgiving on when you've needed to gear, and then two of them have had big turbos on that have been able to compensate. The S40 he had for a second one, it was a ex-Dem from Pilling Volvo, which is I don't know if it still exists, but it was a Volvo dealership in Milton Keynes my parents had lots of dealings with over the years before they used Sesson Lata Volvo in Bury St Edmunds for the most part. I remember this particular Volvo, the Sesson Lata dealership got cocky over my dad's business. Pilling did a far better deal, and he went, okay, Sesson Lata, bye-bye. And apparently the salesman caught a shit ton of flack for a very, very long time. Or at least until that sales manager retired. But this S40 is a 1.8. So, it was in a metallic colour. It was I can't remember, I think the colour was autumn gold, because in some lights it looked orange, sometimes it looked red. I think it was actually a pearlescent colour, is that the right word, pearlescent? It was something like that, and definitely metallic compared to the flat red of the first S40. They had different wheels on the sort of the more ones that they came with as standard, sort of almost like a figure of 8, but if you cut the 8, the bit that makes it an 8 out, it's sort of that sort of shape spoke. But interestingly, his S40 had standard front seats, but a Sport Lux rear seat. Now, we didn't know anything different. I did remember finding it weird, like, why is the rest of the car got this weird 4-hash pattern on, and then why has the back seat got this plus black and white pattern on? But it never dawned on me. I just thought, Volvo. That was basically what I thought. But apparently it was, wasn't meant to be there. But I never got, my dad never made it obvious, or never, I don't think he'd remember now, but can't remember whether that was a manufacturing error, or was it something Pilling had done they changed the back seat to say, so if you want to feel what the SE Sport is like, this is what the seats are. My dad only cottoned on because he'd been given a V40 Sport Lux for the day, and he cottoned on when he was reversing it that the back seat was the same as his, and how his car was completely different back and front, and then they had to replace the seats, and then it wasn't as nice, not as comfortable, but still a very nice car. So I think, so back to my main point, I think the reason why it was my favourite is because my dad had one. It's that era of BTCs when you had Peugeot, Ford, Renault, BMW, Vauxhall in on the action. It was a whole, my dad's got one sort of thing. Now, I appreciate the Volvo didn't have quite the same track record as other cars of its time, particularly things like the Mondi and etc. But it's the whole point of when it did do well, and because if I remember rightly, Rydell was championing it at one point. It's one of those things that when it did do well, it was like, for those of us at school who like cars, it was like, the Volvo won this week. The Renault crashed. You're it. So, I suppose to try and keep this video a bit short, that's why it's my favourite one of my favourite racing cars. My dad had the road-going version. I suppose it's a bit like Jeremy Clarkson liking the Ford GT40. His dad had a Ford. And I appreciate Volvo haven't got anything like a GT40 or anything like that, but if they'd ever made the YCC concept real, that would have been insane. But what engine it had in it, I don't remember. But there we are. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this short video. Keep an eye out for the GoFundMe or whatever. I'm going to do it on Kickstarter or whatever it is. Keep an eye out for that. I'll post a link when I have it. Drive safe. See you next time.